Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Tonight, I'm going to attempt to take a look at the Bandai Stormtrooper 1/6 scale model kit. It's a little bit out of my usual wheelhouse when it comes to the models. This is double the scale of all the models we've gotten before this. The rest are 1/12. Bandai decided to throw us a 1/6, the Stormtrooper, which is a good call. It's an army builder. If it's going to be the first one, might as well make one that people are going to buy several. But man, the box is huge. I'm talking, it's 16 inches by about 12 inches. It's just an oddball size, especially for my review space. But looking at the box, it's Star Wars up on top. Pretty pictures close up of the Stormtrooper. 1/6 scale Stormtrooper Bandai. On the side, we get pictures from the movie and then the model kit in several action poses. On the end, we just get the logo and Stormtrooper. On this side, we get kind of the promotional image and then a little picture of the Stormtrooper. And then some unreadables. It says something like, double your pleasure, double your fun. On the other end, again, pretty pictures, Stormtrooper. On the back, a whole lot of nothing, whole lot of black. But I haven't opened this up yet, so I'm interested to see what's actually inside. And, yep, it's a big-ass Stormtrooper. Looks like it has green lenses for the helmet. Waterslide decals, there's actually a Star Wars logo as a decal. It looks like they went with the Sandtrooper model, and the band above the eyes is a movable piece. Armor pieces, look at the size of this helmet. Shoulder pieces, some of the articulation. It's weird seeing this double-sized. Most of it looks like the original 1/12 scale model kit, but just bigger, which is obvious, but getting it actually in hand is kind of weird. More armor pieces, weapon. Good lord, that gun's big. A stand, a big round stand instead of the usual black stand with the foot peg in it. I guess you put the decal right there because there's an indented Star Wars logo. And it's going to be a clamp system, looks like, clamp around the waist. And then the instructions. A little different on the front here. Usually we just see a vanilla pose on front. I kind of went action style right here. And the wrist right here looks like a bigger ball than the usual 1/12 scale Stormtroopers. It just has a peg going in. That looks different. Just looking at the pictures right off the bat, the helmet looks a little bit big, but I want to get the model together to see if that's actually like that. And the instructions are a book style. It's not the usual fold-out roadmap top thing. So I like that. When I'm setting it up in the back of the booth, I can just have it sitting 2 pages at a time. That's kind of cool. But like always, I'm not going to show the whole build. If I run into any snags, I'll film that or some interesting parts. And then afterwards, I'll do a review of the finished figure, as big as it may be. One of the first things I realize is my space here is not big enough for this kind of model kit, this size of model kit. These sprues are huge. Essentially comes with 9, if you call this could be 10 sprue trees. So yeah, this takes up a lot of room on the desk whenever you're building it. Another reason I was interested in this kit is because they advertised it as having updated articulation from the 1/12 scale Stormtrooper. But I'm afraid once I get it put together, and if I like the articulation, I'll spend the next 6 months bitching and whining about wanting a 1/12 Stormtrooper with the updated articulation like this one. Okay, this helmet I already feel is superior to the 1/12 scale one because the mouthpiece is molded in gray. I hated that decal on the original kits, the 1/12 scale kits, because it never wanted to line up. It laid over holes. It had black lines where the holes should be. So this does that without having to do any decal work on it. Also the same for the sides here. These gray pieces on the ears. Again, it goes from the gray inside. So it's molded in that color. Don't have to worry about that decal. I put the front face on and I put the back piece on. It was a snap. It was an actual push to get it to go together, and then it snapped. It went together really hard. I feel like it's secure, but compared to the smaller kit, it seems like there's a lot more pieces here. But that's to give you the grays already on the kit, which I do like. I like that. One thing I am noticing though, are the eyes look weird compared to the classic Stormtrooper. Yeah, those eyes are big. What the f? I can't get the pegs into the holes, and it's almost like these are too big for the holes in the side of the helmet, and it's kind of pissing me off because I can't seem to get them to go in there. It's about to get glued on or thrown out the window, one. That's why they invented super glue, my friends. I could not get those pegs in. They would not fit in the peg holes. So I clipped the pegs off, glued it right there, and it seems to be okay going across. It has a little gap above the eye, and it's hiding that seam right there. So, hey, I'm good with that, as long as it works. Because this is hard plastic, you've got to put a softer plastic piece in to accept the shoulder ball. I guess that's why they did it. But make sure you push this piece all the way in, if you can see it right there. Make sure it goes down flush. It's got that kind of a key on it. Make sure it's turned right and goes all the way in. Now for the shoulder, the swing out butterfly part, or well, at least the part that accepts the arm, is kind of a softer material, but it has a harder part that you have to put on there for the ball part. So I guess it doesn't flex when it's inside the joint, and then it goes on here inside that other piece that you pushed into the back earlier. I wanted to point out the ab crunch right here is interesting because it's what I've seen in the Dragon Ball Z model kits. It's kind of a hinge that opens up forward. So I don't know how much range it'll have after all the armor gets on, but right now it's nice to see that he's going to have some crunch right there. Usually it's a ball going up into the top armor piece that kind of goes around. I'm also noticing that they put the sprues to where they're not attached to the outside where it can be seen, but it's going up and behind. You can see the little nips right here. Now we've seen that with other kits before, but we didn't see that with K2SO, the last one I put together. It was just stuck right to the armor. As soon as you cut it out, you had a little blemish right there that you either had to clean up or live with. So I don't know if there's two different teams working on these or if it only matters to certain pieces. I don't know how they decide which figures get what. But my best guess is, since it's 3 model kits coming out at the same time, that different teams worked on them at the same time to get them all out on schedule. Which, I don't really care for complete cleanness. If I was going for that, I would fill in all the seams, I'd repaint the whole thing, but I'm an action figure collector. I'm used to seams, I'm used to a little bit of plastic here and there. It doesn't bother me one bit. It actually helps to fit in with the rest of my collection, for the most part at least. Okay, here's the ab piece, and then it has a gray piece that plugs into the back of it and causes these buttons on the front. Well, there were decals for blue ones, here, here, and here. What I did was paint those with a Gundam marker before even putting it in and push it through, and then you have the blue buttons. I would have showed you before I plugged it in, but I pushed it and it snapped, which most of the pieces that I've put together so far do have a snap to them, so they go on secure. I don't know if that's a byproduct of it being bigger pieces. I've never built a model this big, so maybe the bigger size allows them to employ some more advanced engineering techniques, maybe the parts snapping together, certain other little things. Okay, when it comes down to it, this kit is nothing like the 6-inch scale one. Now this is the knee right here. It's double jointed, but for some reason there's a piece here that swings this way, and then the bottom swings like a normal knee. Now I don't know how much range that's going to get after, well, it'll probably get to there. This should have a hell of a range of movement, but I don't understand what this piece is for. This is actually one of the articulation pieces stuck on the end of a hard plastic piece. Man, that's a lot of stuff going into just one knee. I had to put the knee piece in before snapping the thigh piece together, and now putting the calf on, it goes around a loop right there, and it looks like it's going to have some slide, like we've seen with the forearms on most of the model kits. They slide down to give you a little bit more range of movement. It looks like the knee's going to do that here. They really went through and just redesigned everything. Okay, getting down to the foot, this is actually the heel of the boot, and it's going up. And this doesn't have a forward-facing pin for rocker. This is a full-on hinge right here that goes side to side up in there. Then you feed this up through the boot and snap the boot together. See, everything snaps tight together. I feel like it's durable. Not that the smaller model kits are fragile, but they do seem to split apart a little bit sometimes when you get crazy with the posing. And you'll also notice there's toe articulation. It's not the greatest in the world. It kind of just kicks forward a little bit. But still, that's toe articulation. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, looking at the knee again, this is the left one. I already put the right one together, and I realized something, that now that I'm putting the left one together, this extra piece in here is so it swivels at the knee, which is kind of weird because there's a swivel at the thigh and then a swivel down at the ankle. And here we are with the elbow joint too. Looking crazy compared to what we're used to, you know what I mean? The top, it hinges out and forward. It kind of comes out of the elbow joint, and then the bottom, it's just crazy amount of movement because of how it's cut and then how it actually works. Okay, getting half the forearm, yep, it goes in a little slot right there. It's a track that you can slide up and down. And there we go, all put together. And like I've said before, my review space here isn't really made for larger scale figures, so I can't get a full body shot in here. Looking at the sculpt, it's a great sculpt, and I really think it skews towards the Rogue One armor. Now, it's almost like the classic armor, but it has different cuts to it. On the bicep, on the inside, it kind of cuts down to give the wearer a little bit more range of movement. And then on the thigh pieces, where it's cut for the crotch, it's a little bit more angular than the classic cut. But like all model kits, the sculpt is nice and crisp because each piece is a separate piece. I say this every time I put a model together. It's gonna be sharp because you put a little piece inside a bigger piece. It's not all one mold where it can lose a little bit of detail when it's run through the manufacturing process. And then for paints, no paints at all. It's a model. If you want paints on it, you gotta add it yourself. But everything is molded in the correct color. Now the big thing I was worried about is the head sculpt. It's a nice head sculpt. I'm going to try to keep this on camera the whole time, and if I don't, you'll have to forgive me. But I was worried it was going to be large, and I still feel that way a little bit. It looks a little bit large, but not super large. It looks like a head is under there. And I don't know how much that fits the actual size of the movie prop helmet. I'm going to have to run this model kit past my 501st guy and see what he thinks. But either way, even if it skews a little bit large, it's not enough for me to say this figure sucks. If it is large, it's just slightly large. Another thing, I haven't put the water slides on yet. Like I said during my K2SO build, I'm gonna wait until I get this, the K2SO, and the Scarif Stormtrooper all built, and then I'll put all the water slides on at the same time, because getting all the supplies out for that, going through all that, I might as well make it a big water slide party. Now, I'm going to try to go over the articulation all on camera here. We'll see how this goes. We got a ball at the top of the neck and then at the bottom of the neck with a hinge inside there. I don't know how many action figures actually have it like that, but I know it's there because I put it together. That's another cool thing about the model kits. You could see all the inner workings. But you get shift forward and back, which kind of helps looking down, but you can't really look down. You can look up, got the swivel, you have about this much side to side. And then the shift side to side. So if you want even more, you get right there. Shoulders are on a butterfly joint. They come out where you can shift forward with it. That's a ball joint coming out of there. It goes up to about right there. Not terrible for a character with a big ass shoulder pad. And that shoulder pad is on a hinge, but it kind of moves this way instead of hinging out at the bottom. There's a bicep swivel, but you don't really need it, because there's a swivel at the elbow too. And it's a double elbow, but like you saw during the build, it's a weird double elbow. It comes up to about right here, and then you have a shift forward at the forearm to get you about that much movement. Then when you straighten the arm back up, remember to shift back up. There is a new wrist joint. It's not just a peg going up into a ball anymore where you get just a little bit of movement. It's kind of like a figure arch joint. You have a swivel at the wrist, then you have a hinge that goes any direction you want it to go by turning it. Now, I would recommend taking the hand off and turning this by hand, because this is actually just a piece stuck to the other half. So if you take the hand and try to rotate it and then kick it around this way by just the peg joint, it wants to come off like that. If you just grab the whole thing and normal articulation, it doesn't want to come apart that easily. And then down on the wrist, you have a swivel there too. There's a ball mid-torso, gets a good range of movement. You got side to side, you got forward, you got back. Now, that hinge in there, it's a little bit hard to maneuver. You can't really get it to pull up to give you more range of movement. It just kind of wants to stay in there. I don't feel like that joint in there is useful. And then there's a slide ball down in the waist. It gives you a little bit more range there. And then you can swivel there, or you can swivel at the top. The hips are on a drop down joint. You can drop it down pretty far. You can come forward. These are kind of rubbery, not very. You don't want to go cranking too far on it, but it does get out of the way when you bring the leg up. Back out isn't great, but yeah, then you can shift that back up. You do have some swivel at the knee, about that much. It comes back this far, but if you shift this down, you get up to about right there. There's a swivel at the ankle. It's back that far, gets forward that far. There is a hinge there to give you rocker ankle, and then the toe comes up about that far. For accessories, he comes with two open hands, just kind of relaxed at his side. He comes with left and right trigger fingers. holding the weapon. This is set up a little bit different. I'll show you that here in a second. He comes with one right fist, and then he comes with a pointy finger for the left hand. Now, like I said, it's a little bit different than what we've seen with most hands in the past with the 1/12 scale figures. The hand pops off, and to put the trigger finger on, you remove these fingers. It's not a whole nother hand that you clamp onto the gun. You just put the trigger fingers in that same hand sculpt, and then the gun slips into there. It doesn't clamp down on it like the smaller figures. I found the easiest way to take it back apart is to take it by the pointer finger. And then you can put on the pointing finger, where it's not the trigger finger, he's pointing away. For weapons, he comes with pretty much the same weapons as the smaller version does. He's got the long rifle, and then he has the little pistol, which I hardly ever use with the figures. And then he comes with the standard Stormtrooper blaster. Now for the long rifle, it has this folded up tripod on bottom, and here you can take this off, and it comes with an actual folded out tripod piece. So if you wanted to lay him on the ground, or just have this sitting on the ground beside it, it works out pretty good. And then finally there's the stand. It's a clear piece. It's got the bar coming up. It's kind of gaudy, but at least it's clear, so it's not too bad. On the top there's the clamp. You clamp around the waist, and there is kind of a peg. And when I was putting them together, I was wondering why there was a separate armor piece right here. And that's to pop off, and you pretty much peg him in his ass. I haven't had a problem with him standing without the stand, so I doubt I'll ever use this. It's nice just to have in case you live in earthquake country or something, but as is, like I said, I haven't had a problem with him standing. For comparison, here he is with the Hot Toys Deadpool. I do have a few other 12-inch figures, but the Deadpool stays close at all times. Pretty good size, but some people have been asking me to do a comparison with the Premium Elite Darth Vader from the Disney Store. And Disney Store kind of went with an 11-inch scale. So this Stormtrooper is too big for that line. It makes Vader look shrimpy. So at the end of the day, I like seeing the engineering involved here. There was a lot of changes made from the 1/12 scale to the 1/6 scale, mostly because they could probably do it at the bigger size. There was a lot more plastic to work with. It's a great looking figure once completed. And all the articulation is nice. It is different, but I don't really think there's more range of movement than in the small scale, except for the toe joint. In fact, I'd almost say that the small scale gets a greater range of movement in the elbows. I'm still not calling the head large. It may be slightly big, but not large. It doesn't take away from the overall look. It looks like a skinny dude with a helmet on. I do find that the thigh armor, at least up at the top, it doesn't want to stay together. You gotta kind of put it back together, even though it's not the pegs popping apart, it's just how it lays. Being brutally honest, all the joints you have to kind of slow down and think about. You have to pull before you bend, you have to turn, you have to hold in certain places, or it does feel like it may snap. I don't think it'll snap, but it kind of has some give to it. Yes, you have to be careful with it, but once you get a pose, it does look good. I just don't know how many more models I'd want in the 12-inch scale. And how deep are they going to go? Are they going to do the droids again in 12-inch? Oh man, I just heard my wallet screaming from the other room. As much as I don't want to do a 12-inch scale, if they offered it, I would probably get it. Because yeah, 12-inch C-3PO, 12-inch R2-D2. If they could bring out a Darth Vader with updated articulation and some cloth goods, because it would look better at this scale, yeah, I'd have to go for it. So yeah, not a perfect figure, but it looks great on the shelf. It looks great in person. I think pictures blow out this Stormtrooper's head. It's not as large as it seems. If you were on the fence with this, go ahead and give it a shot. You're more than likely gonna dig it, because when it comes down to it, it's a Stormtrooper, has great articulation, looks pretty great. So if you like the review, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the Fwoosh.